Hi, and a very warm welcome to Viega Visionary Voices. We are really glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Reema, for having me.
So, today's topic is the future of skyscrapers and how high can we go.
Correct.
But before we delve into the topic, I recently watched one of your interviews with Tech Conversations, and therein you mentioned that if you were not a builder, you would have been an architect.
Okay.
And in your office, I can see the design, the aesthetics, the sense of architecture that you have.
Right.
So, does architecture as a passion is something that you put into your buildings and into your creations, and is it something that inspires you, or how is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So architecture, engineering, design, whatever you call it, I think that is what has actually got me into the real estate development business. When I came back after my studies, I joined my father's business, and he was into land investment and trading, and which is actually, trust me, a great money minting business. Probably real estate development is a much tougher business, and still I selected the harder way of getting into real estate. But that was purely because of the passion I had for design, for planning, for engineering. So yes, I think I'm glad whatever I'm doing, I'm happy with it. And if just in case I wouldn't have been into a development part, and probably I wouldn't have the a back support of my father who was into land investment, then probably I would have designed buildings and probably have got into the design part or into the engineering part. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So, when I talk about the future of skyscrapers, Shridhar Group is building a lot of skyscrapers and houses as well, individual houses as well.
Correct.
So, tell me more about Shridhar Group.
Yeah. So we are into all the facets of real estate development, like starting from say affordable segment, then we have the mid segment, we have the upper mid segment, then we have the luxury segment, we have bungalows, we have weekend homes, we have plots, we have commercial buildings. So there is not a single segment of real estate which we have not touched upon. And I think that is the diversity that we have in our product. That is what drives our company and our team, because we have so much of variation to do. We are not like bored with just one type of prototype making, and it gives us a lot of good challenges to to be faced every day, and we enjoy this kind of work. And I think that's what makes our company and the brand so unique in the Ahmedabad market.
I have seen your website, and I would say that it's pretty interesting, your website. In fact, all your digital assets are very interesting when it comes to Instagram, and when it comes to, you have a very unique take on things, which is generally not what you expect out of a real estate developer or any such business. I mean, having spent so much time in building materials industry, it's not a very interesting or digitally enabled industry, I would say.
Yes.
But that way you are really doing well in terms of reel videos or your website. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so I think it comes from, I remember there was a statement that my father gave, that if you actually want to get into real estate development, make sure you are innovating. Like, just don't be one more developer in the city. And if you are so much driven by passion, then prove it to me. Like, and I remember those words, and I never forget those words every time I'm launching a new project or whatever I'm doing. Like, these words keep hammering into my mind. And I think that's the kind of motivation or challenge you want from your parent. And I'm lucky that I've got that freedom to do it. And I think that's what now it replicates in our team. That, whatever we do, we want to do it in style, with some like glamour, with some passion, with some innovation. And whether it's a small creative, whether it's a website design, whether it's a building design, or whether anything that is related to us, we try to innovate. And
So, I mean, since I come from marketing, nowadays it's said that every company has to be a media company.
So true.
It's so hard to differentiate. If you are out there to build a brand, you have to do something different altogether.
Correct.
So do you think that applies to individual architects as well, if they are to build a business or a brand for themselves?
Absolutely. It's like jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai, right? So I think whatever idea creation that is going on in an architect's mind, or the kind of products they have designed in the past, sometimes a lot of these products never come into into the what do you call they're never executed. Some of these products, they're only they stay as a design. Sometimes the project never kicks off. But it is very important to see what the architect is thinking behind, and what kind of ideology he brings to the table, and whether he is more on the sustainable side, whether he is more on the aesthetic side, or he is a mixture of everything. So you need to promote that on your social media page as an architect, that what your ideology is. And I'm sure you'll find the customers or the developers who are thinking aligned, or the right person who wants to make their own property in that direction. So I think, yeah, you have to speak out what your ideology is on the media.
Indeed. So this podcast series of ours is basically targeted towards young architects, beginners who want to make their career, who want to do something in architecture and building, etc. So you have so much of experience in designing buildings, in doing so many projects. So what are your recommendations or your learning or your takeaways in terms of some upcoming or cutting edge technologies that are being used today when it comes to a skyscraper or a high-rise building?
Correct. So I think first of all, it is important to look at the basics. You, as an architect, it is very important to not just straight away go to the building aesthetics, rather than look at the functionality part. So for that, you have to understand that what are the needs of the customer. So for an architect, the customer is the developer. For the developer, the customers are like the actual users, right? And so the architect has to think the functionality part of the actual end users of that building. What are the needs for them? You say, for example, if it is a commercial building and the office hours start from say around 8:30 a.m. or say around 9 o'clock, then from there, how is the traffic flow going to be? So designing the basements right, designing the inflow right for the traffic, and starting from there, they probably need a coffee to start and kick off the days, to have the cafe shop at the right place. Then the basic requirements that are required in an office, the sunlight direction, the air conditioning systems need to be taken care of in the right way. Fire safety is something which is very challenging, and that needs to be planned appropriately. The toilets that need to be planned in the office, you need staff toilets, and then you need also director toilets. So how do you plan them correctly? And when you are designing a building as a whole, you also have to look at the interior aspect. So if you're designing a space, say if it is a rectangular space or a squarish office space, then how is the design layout going to be for that particular office? So I think first of all, these are the kind of aspects that needs to be taken care of. And then obviously it's like, if you have a very fit body, then it's easier to get the right clothes, and it's always going to look well, right? So then obviously you can work on the aesthetics part, and you can put that building in the right way. Talking about the innovations in, say, for example, technology. Oh yeah, technology has moved on. Obviously, construction is one field where, in comparison to, say, an IT or a pharma or some other industries, there has not been so much of advancement. And still, India being a country which is very labor dependent, the use of technology is still very expensive for us, and it is still not viable for us. So we haven't moved to a lot of new advancements, but yes, we do see a lot of advancements in other Western countries where there is a shortage of labor, and things have come to India where some aspects of technology have been used in terms of executing construction. There are some beautiful softwares which helps you visualize the building in a very nice way. You can have nice model simulations that can be done. So those are the kind of advancements that have started happening in India, and I think the best utilization of that could be done.
So in terms of as a developer, I'm sure you have to work with various groups of people when you are designing or developing a project. So as an architect also, they also have to work with various groups of people.
Yeah.
So what your advice would be to a young architect?
So a developer is like a IPL team's owner, right? An architect is the captain, right?
Okay.
So basically, the captain has to have a right team. You have the structure guy, you have the MEP guy, you have the fire safety guy, you have the facade consultant, you have the lighting consultant. That's an entire team. And if you have the right team along with a good intention of a owner who wants to win the cup, then I think the building is going to turn out great. Yeah.
Interesting outlook, I would say. So in that case, how can an architect, maintain a really good relationship with the developer?
Right. So I think it's the start is very important. So usually whenever I approach an architect, I tend to give my vision out to them. Like, what am I envisioning from this project? Uh, there are projects where I have given so much of freedom to the architect, where I've told them this has to be a brand statement. This building, I'm not looking at the revenue part. Obviously, I don't want to make losses, but I'm not looking at maximum utilization of the FSI and trying to create so much of profit out of it, or use the spaces in the way which I can sell the maximum output out of it. But I'm rather looking at a building which could be a brand statement for me, which could turn out to be a landmark for me. So it's very important that you share your vision in the right way. Sometimes it is more about functionality, especially when it comes to residential buildings, because you have the entire family who is involved in making, the decision making of buying a home. So at that time, I usually focus more on the functionality part rather than the aesthetic part. So it depends on what kind of project it is. But I think if you put your vision very clearly out to the architect, the start is so good. And then the first sketch itself, when it comes from the architect, a lot of things start rolling in the right direction. And then the relationship is always going to be in the positive outlook. Obviously there are challenges which comes across the project, and at the time the overall maturity of the relationship comes into place. It's like a marriage. And usually we have been very fortunate enough to have amazing architects on board. And I think the freedom that we have given to each of them to innovate, to bring their best out of it, to give them that creativity, that they can actually get the best out of us from that project. And I think that has helped us in them creating something wonderful us, and eventually we making that wonderful buildings that we have done in the past.
So how is the practice like? I mean, because you are also a very important, I would say, customer for the architect. So how is it like? I mean, do you have architects on board, or do you have some architects who you constantly work with but not on board? How exactly is it?
So I think I'm one of the few developers who have always loved working with different set of architects every time. Doesn't mean that the one with I worked with I have had problems, but it's more about trying to explore the creativity of other architects, other designers, and meeting new people. And see, work is not the only thing in life. You want to make new relationships, you want to know more people, you want to also explore new kind of designs. And I have been fortunate enough to meet n number of architects and n number of designers in the small little history that I've created, or small little legacy that we have created in creating buildings. So in my career, I have almost worked with 20-30 plus architects, and I think every time we've been fortunate enough to bring the best out of them. And that is why we see that fresh energy coming every time. It has not been taken for granted, and they want to do the best for us. And I've learned so much from each of them, because everyone has brought something different to the table. And that innovation has always actually made me a very well exposed, or I would say well equipped with different sets of knowledge as a developer. Otherwise, this exposure you don't get if you are working with only one set of guy, right, or one set of architecture team.
Correct. Yeah. So tell me, for a young architect, say from a city like Indore, so for a young architect, how is it like? I have mostly seen they generally get placements or try to get a job with a bigger architecture firm, and then they learn, and then that's how they go ahead with things.
Correct.
But if are there builders or developers who hire architects also on board? These young, can there be a career opportunity there?
So usually the role of an architect in a developer's firm would be to cross-check the drawings of the that have come from an architect's firm. Usually the creativity angle is not there, because they are not allowed to create in a developer's firm unless they are an in-house developer agency, and probably they are the ones who are going to create buildings for them. Only then that angle comes into place. But I think for an architect, that freedom needs to be there. they also would like to work
Absolutely.
with n number of different developers, because
Correct.
every other developer would also
Correct.
bring a new set of challenges, new set of requirements
Correct.
for the architect, and that's the fun part, right? That's the fun
Yeah,
part.
I agree with you. I mean, unless you do your practice, you will not know what your style, your voice,
Exactly.
your personality is when you work.
Since it is about creation, like, you have to be like, you have to think like a kid, and kid needs a lot of freedom to create, right?
Correct,
So
correct.
if you want to be innovative, that freedom has to be there. And I think when you have that kind of freedom, obviously the challenges are going to be part of it, but with that freedom you bring so much of creativity, so much of innovation.
True.
Yeah.
And how is the budget like? I mean, is it the developer already decides that this is the budget that I'm going to work in, or and then it goes back to the architect, or there is a tentative budget and the architect starts working and then comes back to you, or says that no, we need more budget, or how is it like?
So ideally, you're right. If you ask me how it should be, I'm not the way, I don't function that way. But ideally, if you ask me, it should be that way, that you need to create a specific budget, especially for your project. If it's your own residence or your own office, probably you can go budgetless, and probably you want to spend how much ever you want to on yourself.
Correct.
But when you are talking about a business model, then you need a particular budget, and you need to know how much you're going to spend, what your actual cost is going to be, so that you can analyze what your estimated profit is going to be and how much you're going to make out of it.
Correct.
Right? But I have always focused more on the freedom part, on the innovation part, on the design part, and we have gone back and then created an estimate, and we have put up our sales price after that.
Oh, okay.
So it's usually based on what our cost is, and then you put up the sales price, and sometimes there could be a little bit of a premium to the rest of the market. But if the product is strong, then
Absolutely.
we are always hopeful that we will succeed, and we have done that in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
have seen your design even in this office, I would say. I mean, it has been beautifully done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so coming back to the skyscrapers thing. Skyscrapers in terms of environment and sustainability, what do you think? How sustainable they are?
So yeah, that is the biggest challenge. Obviously, I think so. Just a few years back, 10 years. I mean, a 10-story building was also a tall building for Ahmedabad. Right. Before that, a 7-story building was the highest that we had. After 10-story, we had a 14-story building, which was a very big welcome for us. That we from 40 meters we could go to 45 meters. And then we went on to 70 meters, which is about 21 story. And from 21 story, now we have a permission where we can go up to 155 meters, or about say 160 meters, which is about close to 35 story to 40 story. So yes, it's a transition that we have seen, and we can't forget that just a few years back, about 20 years back, this city saw a devastating earthquake. And it was a very tough time. We did see so much of damage. We lost many lives, and still people are feared. Those who have lost their family members or loved ones, they still fear to go on heights. So but still, I think the city has moved on very well. I remember one of my projects, which was just a 7-story project, and I had such a tough time selling the 6th and the 7th floor.
Oh.
And now it's the other way. In my 20-story building, my 15 to 28th story is sold on the first day, right? So that we are seeing a huge transition, and I think things have moved on very well, and the needs of the city have also changed. Customers have accepted this tall buildings very well. Talking about your original question, which was sustainability, the challenges are with the MEP, which is the plumbing and the fire safety and the drainage part. And I also see little bit of challenges in terms of psychology. That what if the elevators fail, or if I'm staying on the 28th story or 18th story, or if there is a power failure, because some parts of the city which is still supplied by a different power supplier, we still do have fluctuations, we still have power losses, and although we do have a nice backup system now in place, but still that psychology fear is there. What if things fail, then how would we function into our day-to-day life? So these are the kind of challenges which we are still working on, but I think a lot has gone overboard after that. In the past 3 years, 4 years, some of these buildings have been delivered which are 70-story, and people are successfully staying in those kind of buildings, and now the confidence is growing very well. So I think as we keep moving forward and keep seeing these challenges being successfully overcome, I think the confidence in sustainability will come as a developer and as a user as well. Yes.
So, I mean, how do you see the future? Do you think this will be the norm in absolute 3 tier 4 cities of India as well?
So I think as soon as the land starts getting expensive, a developer starts going vertical. So as far as tier 3 and tier 4 towns or cities, the land is still economical. They'll probably still prefer to stay into low rises because it is cost effective. Second, the project cycle is very less. So you can finish a project in say about 1 year or 1.5 or 2 years, whereas you go to a skyscraper, it's about the cycle of delivering the project is about 4 to 5 years. And obviously it is more costlier to construct work and you go vertical. So I think as far as talking about tier 3, tier 4 cities, still the norm is going to be about low rises until the land gets so expensive, and probably they also turn into metro cities, and the need of a requirement comes where they cannot grow horizontally more, and they probably want to stay connected or close to the city, and the land is very expensive. That's when they will start going more and more vertical.
You're right. I do think so. I mean, especially considering that cities are expanding. But this still will take a lot of years.
It will. So Ahmedabad, we have seen. I mean, Ahmedabad was a very slow city. It was a typical tier 2 or a tier 3 type city, and now it has gone into great gears. It is very close to a tier 1 city.
Absolutely.
And I think the way things are progressing in the city is too good, and people have accepted it very well. And I think it's the exposure of the people, particularly post-COVID, when I think there was a travel boom. And the way people have traveled out abroad and they have seen this kind of culture, and I think they've just accepted things very beautifully. So it makes our job as a developer very easy. You don't have to convince the customers anymore. You don't have to try hard anymore, and a lot of these things can be explained in a very easier way. So the acceptability comes faster.
And I since you were mentioning of timely delivery, I have seen that Shridhar Group actually focuses a lot on timely delivery.
Correct.
Which is a very good thing, because in India still there are projects which have taken a really long time.
Correct.
So do you think architects also need to really respect the timelines?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I think not only we, but I think as such the Ahmedabad culture, most developers of Ahmedabad, I would say the intention has been very right. Ahmedabad has been a very small city in terms of the sense that everybody knows each other very well. Kind of, it's still a very closed circuit city, and everybody wants to have their A1 impression in the kind of crowds they visit or the kind of social gatherings they go to, and everybody is very concerned about their own ethics, and and I think that has bring this strong culture into Ahmedabad developers. And I think most of the developers, they are very respectful of the timely deliveries that they want to give. I think in terms of architecture, it is very important that most of the drawings or whatever the entire envision of the building is supposed to be done, that is done in the first 6 months of the project. Because if you give all your drawings, including the finishing, including every detail that needs to be taken care of in the first 6 months of the building, then the developer has to only focus on the execution part. And you don't want to change your drawings multiple times. But that is the biggest challenge. When it's very difficult, and it is tempting because say midway the project you travel somewhere and then you find something very nice and then you want to add that innovation straight away in the existing project. I think it gets you all those changes in the drawings, and then it leads into delays. But then you are so tempted to just get that into execution mode. Probably if me and the developer, or we as developers and the architect, could have that little bit of patience to do it in the next project rather than straight away doing it in this project. The idea is to give something better.
Absolutely.
But I think that is one of the biggest challenges that I have faced. But I think if the architects and the designers and all the consultants on board, if they can go through all the drawings of the projects in the first few months itself, and then just forget about the project and then let the execution team execute it, and they don't have to ever refer the drawings, and whatever discussions need to be done, they are done in the starting of the project. then I think I can assure you that 99 times out of 100 the project will be delivered on time. Yeah, so the architect has to play a huge role into this. Yeah.
Okay, so we are moving on to the next segment, which is the hot take segment, as we call it. So I'll ask you a couple of questions. Be very honest about it.
Okay.
So some people, especially people who are really close to environmentalists, so they believe that super tall buildings are simply vanity projects. So what do you think?
Well, they are not wrong, but I would say a lot has been done by developers, by architects, and by good environment conscious developers to do it the best they can, right? So, I mean, if you see real estate industry or any industry for that aspect, not only real estate, you take pharma, you take chemical industry, you take textile, so they are harming some or the other way to the environment, right? So real estate industry is no way different, but I think we are also planting a lot of trees. We are doing a lot of different things. We are also making a lot of water efficient buildings nowadays. We are putting in a lot of solar technology, which is helping reducing the power cost. And a lot of this kind of actions have been taken by developers to make the building more environment friendly. Recently, the Ahmedabad governing body, the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, which is the real estate body of our city, they have given an extra incentive if you create an environment friendly building.
Oh,
so I think this is only going to attract developers to make even more conscious, environment conscious buildings, and if you do that, then they give you that incentive or you have to pay less for your FSI cost. So I think these are the kind of initiatives which are only going to help and prove this kind of people wrong and probably give a little bit of a positive image to this industry.
Correct. And I think government is also incentivizing solar panels a lot and solar energy a lot.
Yes, absolutely. I think since our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi was CM of the state, he has been promoting solar energy since he was the CM. And Gujarat has the biggest solar park.
Yes, I know. I am aware of that.
Right. And I think new technology is also coming where all the glass facades are going to have those kind of glass panels which can actually generate solar energy and which in turn you can distribute to your power circuit. So I think a lot of things are coming in future, and I'm sure that Ahmedabad developers will brace it very well. Yeah.
So these glass panels that many developers or architects also put the facades more like a glass building, but these are not really a sustainable buildings, are they?
Yes, you are right. I mean, considering the climate of Ahmedabad, which is usually very, very hot, sometimes this glass reflects a lot of sunlight back onto the street, making it even more hotter than it is.
Okay.
And I think that's where the developers have to be kind of, socially responsible to use the right kind of glass. There are some brilliant glass which are available from many big companies and which are much more environment friendly than we think of, and they reflect back much lesser solar light or the sunlight and causing less impact on the environment. So I think these are the kind of material usages which a developer has to look at and not only look at the just the financial part. And you have to be as a building or as a developer, you have to be socially responsible when you are creating something so wonderful.
Correct. Yeah. I agree. So do you think our country should also have some impositions like Paris in France or Athens in Greece have in terms of how high can you go?
Okay. I think I would love to have the tallest building in my city. I mean, it would be so nice to have, say, like Ahmedabad has the tallest building in India. So I mean, I would say you shouldn't have those kind of sanctions. Let the developer go as high as he wants to. Obviously, with going high, there is a cost attached to it. So everybody is going to work out their own economics. And I mean, you go to Dubai or you go to you see so many beautiful tall buildings and you see that freedom, and suddenly that is one city which the entire world is actually aspiring for. Every city now wants to look like Dubai, right? And that is the dream city that every city looks up to. So I think there shouldn't be that kind of restriction. You should give that freedom to the developers, to the authorities. Yes, you can, obviously there are few angles which need to be taken care of, which is the most important is the fire safety. How would you tackle with fire safety on the topmost floor if you don't have the right equipments or you don't have the right things to give that safety to the customer who is there on the top floor. So I think those kind of fire norms need to be made, where if somebody wants to go tall, it's okay, but then these are the fire safety norms for that. And if that can be done, then I think there would be a lot of freedom to have, and the city would look just so different. We would have a beautiful city to look at, a skyline to look at. Yeah.
So, since you were mentioning about fire safety and all, so if an architect has to build a skyscraper, for example, so what are the things that they should, absolutely look at, and they should always, take care of this or have a double check on this? Something, any key takeaways for you that you will have?
So, as I initially also said, that functionality is the number one thing. I mean, after all, basically you are designing the building for the end users, and you don't want that the building is looking great, but then it's like, wearing a very tight t-shirt or a dress which makes you feel so uncomfortable. Maybe you are looking great, but then you are not comfortable wearing it. So you have to design a building which is very comfortable to use. It's very, very functional to use. And the factors that you need to take care of is obviously the MEP part is the most important part, where the water, the drainage part, the air conditioning part, which is very, very critical on particularly when you're talking about the tall buildings, because if there is any maintenance issue, then you need to be careful about. So the designing of the air conditioning system has to be done right. And we have already talked a lot and stressed upon the fire safety part. So I think these are the kind of basic necessities which needs to be addressed very, very well. They need to be double checked when you're creating a building. And you basically want a building to be maintained in a very easy way. These buildings are going to last for such a lifelong time. I mean, 50 years to 75 years is what a building lifeline we are looking at, especially with the good quality work that has been done by so many developers now. So I think the building life cycle has also increased. So when you are design a building for so many years, then the maintenance should be taken into consideration. I mean, it has to be easier to maintain in the future, rather than you don't want the maintenance cost to keep increasing, and you don't want it to be very complex when it comes to maintaining in the future. Yeah.
So one last question. Since you mentioned that you would really like to go high, and there is no limit, sky is the limit. So if given an opportunity, how high would you go? Because building high comes with its own set of challenges.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a number in mind, to be honest, but I think I would love to have an office or a residence which can have me panoramic views of the entire city on a clear sky.
Oh wow!
I would put it that way. I think that would be a great view, although we don't have any seashore or a beach or an ocean to look at. But I think it's a very beautiful city that we have, and Ahmedabad has been full of strong culture in its own heritage. It is called the Heritage City, and a lot of wonderful architects have worked in the city over here, and there's a lot of creativity in the city over here. So I would have great panoramic views of different sets of building, and that would give me the morning dose of creativity right there, that energy that needs to be boosted, having such a beautiful view. Yeah, so I think I would like to go as high as I can, where there are panoramic views of the entire city. Yeah.
Great. It was great having you. Great knowing you, and
Yes.
I'm sure our viewers who are basically young architects have taken a lot from this episode.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.